Okay, so hello again. Right, um, let's have a look at what's going on here then. I've just been to the workshop. I have obtained this at Maplin solder. I've had this reel of Maplin solder, I think, since I was in my 20s. I'm now considerably older than that. It's still heavy. It probably speaks to the fact that I haven't done as much electronics as I might have done, but it just keeps going. It was a massive reel to begin with, um, about half a kilo in actual fact. So about a pound's worth, just over a pound of lead solder going on here. And yes, it is lead solder. And what the hell? if I'm probably already, if lead's going to affect me, it would have done so by now. I've melted down lead fishing weights to make a lead brick. I've been doing lead soldering my whole life. Uh, I, of course, it is dangerous stuff, but we don't do what the Romans used to do. We don't put lead sulfate or anything in our wine anymore. To clarify, we don't drink lead. Um, you just treat it with a certain degree of respect to make sure you clean your hands and everything, and then it's fine. It's acceptable. Just don't eat it. Right, I have in front of me the Behringer mixer, as you can see, and I did roughly put it all back together on account of needing to store everything. So now, of course, I need to get it all disconnected, and here we go. So that the actual main board comes away. Just get rid of the base board as well, top there as well. There you go. Right, okay, as you can see, it comes away like this. Hopefully you've got a good view of me or of that as we go ahead. And yes, it's actually, say, it's not a bad board actually. There's a lot to it. There's an awful lot to it. Got all the amplifiers and things back here, and you can see the remains of where I had of where I was trying to take out the solder from the other units here. So I guess there's no time like the present to see whether this is going to work. And let's just now. So where I'm aiming for, so you can see I've taken out one here, and actually, at there are the three bottom or four holes at the bottom for it, and the ones at the top are sort of hidden in among some other components, but they are definitely there. My main concern is that I don't want to break the tracks on those. They are slightly, also slightly awkward. I'm just conscious of where I'm on the camera here. Yeah, trying not to upset those too much is my main concern. And there's also a large anchor pin. There's a couple of anchor pins that go through. One of those looks a bit dry, to be honest with you. I'm sure it's not one I've actually touched. Yeah, so, and they are kind of rather heavily in the middle of everything else. So I'm going to try the desoldering process and see how we get on. So wish me luck. I'm just wondering now, looking at the size of some of the nozzle on this, whether I've actually chosen the right one. Let's see whether I can get away without having to include any additional solder. And the first thing we learn is that the unit has gone into sleep mode. I clearly wasn't using it, didn't use it quick enough. It's still preheating. So let's just wait for that for a moment and talk about the resistors while that comes back up to speed. So here they are at these units here, and they're described the actual B103. So obviously 103. These are 10K at 10K stereo slider pots of the kind that are regularly used within Behringer mixers. They're exactly the same physical design. They've got two lugs on here that which we need to desolder. Oh, there we go. I'm finally up to speed. And so, yeah, so that's the main thing, getting those off. And then we've got another 6 terminals. So there's a total of 8 points that need to be desoldered. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to desolder the big lugs with this relatively small tip. I may have to turn this off and do another reheat. And if I do, that's if I do have to do that, you will know all about it. So give that a little wiggle to see that it's actually free. Yep, that hole's nice and clear. And the next one. You're probably wondering at this point whether I'm going to spend the entire video with you watching me desolder a whole ton of these. The answer, frankly, is no. I don't want you to be bored out of your mind while I do this whole thing. I will attempt to perhaps have a little bit of a creative discussion around this, as I'm doing so. But yeah, I will do a couple of these so you can see the general process. This does appear to be working pretty well, I have to say. The only trouble is, gee whiz, is that unfortunately, yeah, I've got a couple of holes here which I didn't, from the initial one I desoldered, which didn't clear too well. Might need a little bit of might need a bit of encouragement. I can see myself having to just restart. Well, let's test the soldering iron on the holes that aren't clearing too well. Yep, that's going back in nicely. I didn't get water for the sponge, never mind. Next time. Let's just try those holes again. Mixed feelings here. That other one's cleared up very nicely. So, yeah, I will get that cleared up and that will be fine. So, yeah, it looks like what I'm going to have to do is take all of the connections out and sort of desolder all the connections. Let's get all those off. And then I will, you can see on here, all the small connections, I'm going to have to do those manually. What do I mean manually? I mean with the small nozzle here. And then, excuse me, I will put a larger nozzle on that and take all the tags off here. So the actual anchor tags, that is to say. So next time you see me, I will have done all of that and we'll start soldering the new ones in, making sure that they are in fact intercompatible. I might just run a test on a few of these. So let's get all the old ones out and make sure I've got enough of the new ones to go in. Actually, in my typical kind of neurodivergent way, my initial impulse was to just replace the affected slider and have a spare. So what did I do? I went on eBay and I bought a couple of these that's on their own, and they're lovely actually. They feel really smooth. They've got a lovely smooth action to them, and they've got the little cover over the slider hole to reduce the dust ingress. So very pleased about that. But then, of course, I thought to myself, why don't I do them all? I don't really want to have to do this job again. I've had this mixer a long time. So I've got some more. These ones look slightly different insofar as the dust cover is more kind of plastic. These are more meshy. So ostensibly they are the same thing, but they just have a slightly different dust cover to them. So I trust that will actually make no difference. So let's get all these off. Let's get all the old ones off, and then we'll come back, do a few experiments, make sure that we do have intercompatible ones. A bit of a problem if I don't at that stage, isn't it? And then we will start putting the new ones back on. Right, so see you in a little while. Right, so I've just connected up one of these, and I'm going to use the other camera just to look at the display. You'll see this. I'll insert this into the video so you can see what's going on. So I've got a 10k twin potentiometer here, and at its lowest level, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty much short circuit there. I'm having to hold on to the leads because I've got no crocodile clips for these leads. Now, as I start to increase the resistance, I'm now about halfway along the slider, and I've only got about 1/10 of the resistance. As I start to increase that again, if I go halfway again, I've got about half. If I go halfway again, 3/4, and then if I go right to the very top, of course, I've got 10.5 kiloohms. So I think it's fair to say, when you look at that, that the response is logarithmic. So that basically effectively it's subject to that not just to a set resistance per distance, but the amount of resistance that is applied changes or effectively doubles according to a logarithmic scale, which means effectively something like doubling and doubling and doubling. So the rate of change as I may go along the slider actually increases, and the further you get towards the other end. So that's good. That's what that one will do. Now I'm just going to try the same thing, and again you'll see it on the other camera here. I'm just going to try the same thing with one of the new sliders and see whether the same response will be achieved. So bear with me a minute, because getting these prods lined up is actually quite an art in itself. There we go. I'm just having to fight with them a little bit. Ouch. There's also some very, very sharp points on these prods. This is the channel where I don't pretend things always go right, as you probably gathered if you've seen anything else to do with me. Now I've just started to try and check the response of these as well, and sure enough, if I'm about halfway along, I'm expecting to see about 1k of resistance. Okay, so the response here is a little bit different. I'm thinking the response here might be a bit more linear, I've got to say. So these are linear rather than logarithmic pots, now I'm asking myself, because the rate of change is clearly very different. I'm halfway down the pot and I'm at 5k. If I go halfway down the pot on one of these, I'm actually only at about 1k. So it's very different. Now, of course, I expect, therefore, I'm going to have to put the sliders in a different place. But let's be honest, ultimately, it's still 10k end to end. That's the important thing. And secondly, there will be a point along this slider that which represents exactly the same level of resistance. The problem is going to be trying to get the exact right point on it's not going to be as perhaps the scale is obviously the scale on the scale on the mixer itself isn't going to be quite right, but that's okay, because these well, the benefits here are these are nice and shiny and new, and yeah, okay. So the one thing I probably have overlooked there is the linear log thing. Still, never mind, that's okay. I'm not going to fret about that. I'm going to proceed as if, or as is. I'll just shut my meter down, and we will see what goes on. We will see how they go. But, so the next job is going to be putting all that back together, and let's see how they fit back in. Here we go. Here's my board, and it's going to take channel number 1. They're all the same device. Channel 1. I think the alignment of these. The fun part here is going to be the alignment of all of the pins to go back in. I've got to try and align 8 separate connections, including the 2 tags that locate the unit in place, and make sure that I don't leave anything bent up underneath, as would appear to be the case here already. Yeah, there you go. Look. And that's what I'm worried about, is that I'm going to bend a pin, and then in my attempts to put it back in place, it's going to bend right up. I bought some little snipe nose pliers in. Sorry, I keep going off the camera. And I brought some snipe nose pliers in, so I can just align these up properly, and we'll take it from there. Right. So once again, I'm not going to do every last one of these on camera. That would not make for a terribly exciting video for anybody, neither you nor I, nor anyone. So let's just get the 2 there located, that in the other location tags, and there we go. Now if I just look over the side here, everything has come through this time. Just use these little pliers. My favourite cutters were the companion of these little snipe nose pliers. I love these. But, anyone got out there got a favourite tool to work with, and no giggling at the back? Let's have none of that. Right, let's get that soldered into place. Can you see what I'm doing there? Yeah, there we go. This is where, of course, it would help if I actually got the tool heated up and ready to go. Okay, so obviously the plan is to get the rest of these put together. I'm going to then put the board. I'm never going to put these back. I don't care whether it's Lin versus log. These are old, they feel crunchy, and they're obviously, they've had years and years and years of service, and so yeah, they're past their best. So these are going in anyway, and if that means I have to be a bit more careful about where I adjust the position of the slider, and if it has to be a bit further down than I would have had it before, well, you know what, that's going to be okay. That's going to be okay, as long as it's on there somewhere. This is also my secondary mixer. I'm not bothered about it as much as the Yamaha one that I use for most of the main channels, and so that's what you'll see. My soldering iron hopefully is up and running up. Let's try that again. It's going in now with the soldering iron. That's going on okay. Yep, taking to it quite nicely for the most part. Bit of a rogue one. Now, there's obviously one of these connections which actually needs a bit more heat than the rest. It's the one that was the most reluctant to desolder. It's the most reluctant to become soldered again. So yeah, that's a bit of fun there. Most of the rest of them seem quite happy, and obviously I've got to do a bit more soldering around the structural location tags here. Seems to be flowing okay. There's the next one going in, a bit more, some solder on it. Doesn't have to be too much, it's not forming a circuit here. Maybe I should put one of the larger tips on the soldering gun. Sorry, iron for that. Okay, there we go. That's the first one on, and it looks and feels the part. And it's going to be I appreciate that that's not going to be like I say, it's not going to work exactly the same as its logarithmic predecessor, but I'm happy to live with that for the purpose of this exercise. So learning point there, if you do care about such things, make sure that the replacements you're buying do have the appropriate rate of change, whether they are linear or logarithmic resistors. So I'll be back. I'm going to carry on with this job now, and I'll see you in a while. Have a good one. Okay, so while this is all going on, just like to remind you that there are videos of the soldering station, desoldering station being set up, and there's also a video about the initial problem where I've already taken the case off the mixer, but I'm looking to remove one of the sliders that's faulty before I bought the desoldering station, and what a mess I made of that. But never mind, that's all there for your third-party Schadenfreude enjoyment if you wish to go and see what happened over there. And now back to the video. Hi. Right. I'm just on the very last one. I've just come back in to show you that. Not least because I have one rogue there, one rogue hole I needed to do something with. So this is the last one going in. That has been, I have to say, a right pain. It's probably why I don't do so much of this these days. It's because it's extremely fiddly, and my eyes are not what they were when I was at 20, 30 or so, 40 years younger. And so I really struggle with any of the close-up stuff now. I really need, and if I carry on doing more of this, I'm definitely going to need some special short distance glasses for this. Now these are actually varifocals, but they're only so good up to a point for reading. They're absolutely useless at this range, where I need to see up close and personal that my soldering is actually working. And, got the last 4 connections to go on now, and one of them is still a pain. It's really weird. It's the same one on all of the resistors. You have to really get it warm, a lot warmer. You wait a bit longer for the solder to actually get around, to flow around it effectively. The others are fine. I don't know if it's something to do with the resistor or the PCB, but okay, that is looking all right. Obviously it doesn't look as nice as it would have done in its original flow soldering state, but everything looks to be back and connected. Well, I had one or two concerns about that particular pin on some of the earlier ones. Right, I think that's actually done it. So I've been at this for quite a while now, and it's definitely time for a lunch break. So where am I at now? Well, the next part of the process, I'm just going to give this a brush down a bit. Next part of the process, having got all these together, ideally I want to try to test this board before I put the whole thing back. That's going to be fun. I need to find something to plug into this, and I've got a pair of speakers over there that I can also use. Trouble is, I also need the power supply. I need to be able to plug this into the other part of the board here. There's those are all the output connections there, and they've got their own ribbon cable, and here are all the power supply connections for the phantom power, the main board power. I'm not looking too clever, I have to say. This was Behringer back in the 90s or the early 2000s, I have to say. So, anyway, so that's the plan. Let's reconnect everything, test it out, and then make sure that it will at least, I know it's not going to perform on the scale the same as the previous pots did, but I think they're going nonetheless to perform a lot better in terms of quality than the previous ones. Back again, and as you can see, a few things have moved around now. So what's happened here is I've got the board laid out. I've had to disconnect the output socket panel from the chassis so that I can actually have the power connection put through, and without having to desolder that from the back. It was easier just to take the main output off and then plug that in. There's a little kind of Bolex connector that plugs that through into the speakers. So I've got the speakers on, and I've got the source coming in here. Now I've not turned that on yet. I've got an old mini disc player that has got some Morris dancing music, I think, that I've done. Back over on the behind me where the synth rig is. So I'm going to go and start playing that, and just put the other camera on as well. So yeah, and we can have a close look at what this is doing. So obviously I haven't intentionally, at least, changed anything that isn't that wasn't the sliders. Everything else should basically be no different to what it was before. So I will do a small amount of testing around that. I just want to make sure that all of the two-track stuff, you've got a couple of outputs from this mixer. You've got the main and the auxiliary outputs. I just need to keep reminding myself that what goes to what. So I'm going to go and turn on my mini disc deck, and we should start hearing something out of this, and we can just check whether or not these are doing more or less what I would expect them to do. So, right, one moment, please. Okay, that is the sound of melodian music. I'll just turn it out. That's a song called The Bad Boys of Dunkirk, by the way. Anyway, yeah, I'm conscious that you're not really seeing much from there, so I'm just going to move this gingerly downwards. Try not to interrupt the power connection. So that's the first pair of outputs, and that's working okay. So I'm just going to move the across to the next pair. Okay, and that would appear to be all right. Now that's the first, those are the only totally mono channels on this mixer. The next pair is a stereo pair. Actually, this is one of the reasons why I keep this mixer, because it has so many stereo pairs. There you go. Oh, speed the plough. And that's hand left. Okay, next pair. Yeah, I'm going to have to put the sliders in a slightly different place. But fundamentally, if everything goes on like this, then it's worked. So far so good. Don't want to jinx it too much saying that. Let's try the next pair. That was 7 and 8. I've got 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 to go. To the left, to the right, to the centre. Nice. Okay, and then 11 and 12 is my final one. Nice. There'll be another tune coming on it. Right, the only thing I need to check now, let me just turn my playing down a bit. The only thing I need to check now is to make sure that the alternate outputs from the mixer are working. So just going to swing those across. And this is the just check the next pair. So far so good. Back to these. Good. Next one. Good. that's enough of that. Right, that's it then. So everything has gone back together. All the pots appear to be doing what they want, and they're not outlandishly different. Okay, they are linear, not logarithmic, from what I could tell from those measurements I made. But I think you've maybe be able to see that it hasn't made a world of difference. Especially, I'm not that bothered. I can decide on the scale where something is loud enough, and where on the VU meter it's loud enough. The fact that it might not be exactly where I used to put the slider before is kind of neither here nor there, if I'm honest. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that. The next phase of the operation is to give the panel a clean. Going to give the fascia a clean there, and then after that, I'm going to put it back together and we'll test it in situ. How about that? All right. I've just turned my phone off for a bit because it's draining battery really quickly, and one of the problems there is that it's whenever I use the DJI gimbal, DJI Mobi app, it does seem to drain the battery. That the phone gets very, very hot, and it does drain the battery extremely quickly. I've never seen my phone battery go down so fast as when it's run the app. It looks like it's running the phone at full whack the whole time. And I had the phone on a gimbal while I was doing all the other bits of filming. Anyway, so here we are. I've got a box of knobs. Now, we'll just say to my wife, here darling, is what an actual box of knobs looks like. This is a box, these are knobs. But apparently anything that I purchase to do with everything I do out here is a box of knobs. But there is nothing more box of knobby than this right here. So I need to put everything back together. And here comes the fun part. Now, I've given the fascia a nice clean. Got years of accumulated gunge off of there. It's not perfect, but like I say, I've had this for a very, very long time. But my next job now is to get it all refixed back into place. And so here's where the fun really starts. And I can't remember, did I put all those back? I guess I must have done. I don't remember them being. Yeah, so what about these? Oh no, the non-slip washers went on the inside, that's right. Okay, so here comes the fun then of trying to reintroduce these two to each other. Board, this is chassis board. How are you doing? There we are. That's actually gone in okay. Just need to try and extract the phantom cable. Sorry, back there. There's two little sockets on this corner. There's one for the phantom power, which I might as well reconnect. At least that will keep it out of the way. There we go. Phantom power connector, and then that's the main power. An awful lot of glue gun around here, and I can't help thinking there's no real need for all that. So that's in from that side. Let's now turn it over, and this is ow. Some of the solder the solder points are extremely sharp, and that's just, I need something underneath this that's going to keep it in the right place. And I've literally got the bag from my meter there. That's keeping everything held together close enough anyway, close enough until I actually get the everything properly set up. Does that need to go back in? Do they need to? Yeah, there we go. And that just needs to push through there like so. Yeah, I should probably start by putting those in. Now, could do with getting a bigger box. I need a bigger box to put my box of knobs in. Oh, I really cut myself doing that. Hope nobody screams. Managed to just tear my skin slightly. It's just one of the solder terminals that's come right through on me. Ow. Oh well. You say that no good job goes without spilling some blood somewhere. I hope I'm putting the right ones, using the right screws here. When it comes to the screws on this, there are only so many types actually. The first ones are the machine screws, which go into the rest of the unit. There are the self-tapping screws, and there's only a limited number of those, and they all are for screwing all of the plastic components back in, which would be these. Everything else, everything apart from these is a machine screw. That's to say, it's it's designed to fit into a thread, not tap its own out, which this would have done in the first place. So, okay, let's just pop through a little bit more, gradually getting this back together. I won't bore you with the entire process of putting every last screw back on this. Suffice to say, it does have quite a few. As you can see, I'm putting back quite a number of screws that are to do with the inputs here. There's a few of those to go back on. Nearly there with that. Still got some more somewhere. And yeah, then we've got then I've got machine screws, and there are holes. There's about 3 holes, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16, about 16 machine screws. Another one there, and there'll be some on the back and the sides, of course, so still a few to go with that as well. So I think if I just get a few machine screws into the bottom of this along here, then should be laughing after that. Shouldn't be too difficult to fit the rest in. So let's just get this bottom row of screws in place. There we go. So one there. So as I was saying earlier, yes, depending on where you are, if you are just interested in general engineering, there's a lot worse that you can do than get the job in the rail industry. There are many companies that are involved in it. It is international, and over time standards are very much converging, and we can see similar systems being used in all around the world. And as the technology is converging to a degree, so are the principles that people adopt. It's rather like we all have USB now, isn't it? And it's kind of has defined a lot of how we power things and what have you. There we go. I'll just put a screw in the top there, where all the two-track connections are. Oh, wait a minute. That feels like a self-tapping screw, actually. And then that's it. So I'll do that in a second. So okay. So got a bit more to do here. I'm going to put this back together, And then once it's back together, I'm going to resituate it with the synth rig, and we'll have a go, put it through its paces. I've got some more related video content to do with the new patch bays, and my intention is that the inputs, the connections to this, will be going to the patch bays as well. So that's going to be an interesting exercise as well. I'll update my patch bay plan, and we'll go from there. Okay, hi. So that's all the buttons back on now. That was quite some going. A few of them just need a bit of a clean, of course. There's bits and pieces get dumped on these over the years, don't they? Odds and ends. Some strange marks. No idea how they got there. Anyway, so that's all been cleaned up and redone now. So there are, as I was saying, on the, if you look here, obviously the mixer faders have a dB scale. Now, because my sliders are not the logarithmic, I'm feeling that is not really going to be representative now. But to be honest with you, I've never actually used that as a way to set the volume. I've not looked at the scale and gone, oh, that has to be 0 dB, is just there. At the end of the day, it's all down to the input level. It can be down to the gain on the microphone controls, and what you do with the send effects and everything else. So I don't really rate that scale as being terribly meaningful. 0 to 10 without the dB would have been just fine, if you ask me. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is take it all back to the rig. Now, because I've had a bit of a change around, which if you've seen in my videos, you probably gather it's not something it's something I do actually quite often. Now the mixers at this one is going to live underneath the main at desk level. I simply don't have enough room on the desk for everything. As it is, I've got several pieces away in the drawer, all the poly end equipment, all the 2 poly ends, the Electron Digitac 2, the Korg Volca sample, and even the stylophone, the OP1, and for the time being the Tasty Chips granular synth. They're all sitting in a cupboard, so I don't get too many things out at the same time. Plus, I would find that is very distracting when I'm trying to decide how to record a track. I've actually realised that I want to keep things pretty simple, and I've got my eye on a piece of equipment on Kickstarter that is probably the last thing, the last major operational unit that I am going to buy for the foreseeable future at least. And but anyway, more about that as and when it gets launched. I know it's coming out in early March, and I've got my name down with a view to obtaining one. So we'll see how that goes. And anyway, I'm digressing slightly, but let's get back to the mixer. That's going to go back in place under the desk, and I'm going to connect this up to the patch bay, and we'll see how everything performs then. I will have a separate video, by the way, coming out on the patch bay arrangement and a few things that I've had to learn about that as well. So good. Okay,